All right, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Thank you, everybody who is on. I know that there's a lot of things you could be doing right now, but you're joined in with me on this webinar, and so I do appreciate you being here. We are going to spend about an hour together tonight. I'm going to go through a lot of great information, but there is also a chat box that's readily available. You'll be able to see that. There should be a little bar at the bottom of your screen. You can feel free to enter in any questions in the Q&A or pop open the chat. All of that stuff will go directly to me, and I'll be able to answer those questions for you as we go through the webinar today. And I'm happy to take as many questions as you guys have. Also, there will be a Q&A at the end of the webinar today where I'll go through anything that I didn't have a chance to get to while we were talking. But yeah, definitely ask questions and engage. This webinar today is really for you. So I want to make sure you get as much out of it as you can. So with that said, the main topic tonight is your new patient-focused marketing message, how to get patients to choose you every time. The whole idea behind this webinar is that I think there are a lot of dentists out there who feel like there's all these different marketing pieces and there's all these different tactics and there's all these different things that can be done. And it can definitely be overwhelming, and I get it. But at the core of it all, anyone can run a Facebook campaign. Anyone can throw up ads on Google. Anyone can build a website. But what you're actually saying, what you're communicating, what your message is ultimately what's going to matter, because patients are going to read your site. They're going to read your ads. They're going to listen to what your staff says on the phone. And so we want to make sure that we get the message right. A really poor looking website that has great messaging on it will significantly outperform a beautiful website that is super generic. And we're going to have some great examples of that going through the rest of this. So let's go ahead and get into it. There is a workbook that goes along with this webinar today. There's a ton of great information in there, and I would encourage you guys to have that open with you. If you want to engage as we go through this, there'll be a lot of opportunities to type in it. We did email out 2 different versions of this, one that could be printed as well as one that could be you can just interact with and type directly in. Looks like Kelsey just posted the interactive workbook in the chat. So if you didn't have a chance to grab it, go ahead and follow that link, grab the workbook real quick and fill that out as we go through this. It's just another great way to engage and get even more out of the webinar today. So fantastic. And then you also be able to take it with you, right? And keep those learnings with you. So what are we going to cover? First, we're going to look at the 3 components of profitable dental marketing. We're going to look at what new patients actually look for in a new dentist when they're shopping online. We're going to look at why most online marketing gets little to no results. We will dive into how to craft your marketing message for 2020 and beyond. We'll look at how to differentiate your practice from the 10, 20, or 30 others down the street or any corporate offices, right? We'll look at how to craft special offers, ones that actually work, especially those that don't require you to discount your prices or give away a bunch of stuff for free. And then the last thing we'll take a look at is how you can communicate your message on your website to maximize your new patient flow. Awesome. So please, I'd love to have your attention with all of this. Turn off your cell phone or silence it. Just turn off Facebook or whatever social channels you use. Have your workbook ready, because if you're really looking to accelerate your practice growth in 2020, then this webinar will make a huge impact for you. I guarantee that if you pay attention today, this will absolutely make a huge impact for you and your business. Plus, if you stay until the end, we do have some great bonuses. We're going to give away our pay-per-click ads for dentists. This is a fantastic guide for getting up and started with PPC ads, with Google ads. And then we're also going to give away this checklist, which is all new, and it's how to optimize your website to gather more and more new patients, really get people to take action on your website. So it's a great checklist that goes through all the most essential pieces. We're going to go through some of that today, but then you can also take that with you after the webinar. Plus, we're going to give away something really special at the end of this webinar that will only be available to those who are here for the live webinar. I'm a huge believer in rewarding those who actually are willing to show up and make an effort to get and make change for their business, to get ahead. So I want to reward those who are on tonight. There will be an offer specific for this live audience that is not going to be included in the replay and is never going to be seen anywhere else. We may have an offer similar to this on another live webinar, but yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming out. So stay tuned for that. That'll be at the end. Now, before we jump in, I just want to really quickly go through who's talking here. My name is Ryan Menacho. I'm the marketing manager here at Firegang Dental Marketing. And I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on different dental marketing initiatives. So I've been really looking at what works, what doesn't work specifically for dentists. I've done lots of webinars, online trainings. I've written blogs, articles, white papers on dental marketing, and really just focused in this space and tried to look at how can dentists attract more new patients to their practice. And that's where I've been focusing my time for several years now with Firegang. This company that I work for, we are dental specific. So we've been around for over 10 years now as a marketing company. We offer a very integrated service for marketing dental practices online, but we only work with dental practices. So we've gotten really, really good at that specific market. Google certified partners, nationally recognized publishers. Our CEO, his name's Adam Zilko. You may have gotten his book at some point. This is it over here, Grow Your Practice Online. We've been pushing that out for a while. If you don't have a copy, let us know in the chat. I'd be happy to get you set up with a copy of those or of that book. But it's been number one on Amazon for dental marketing and just has been very well received by the community. Great. So with that out of the way, let's get into the main content here. So if you guys would like to engage, I would really love to see what some of the answers you would have to this first question are. We're going to have a lot of questions throughout, and I'd appreciate just any feedback, any answers that you have. The first question I want you to think about is, what is the hardest part about marketing your dental practice? Maybe you've gone through 2019, or maybe it's been longer, really trying to find something that's going to work for you with marketing, but you've been struggling with it. I'd appreciate if maybe one or two people could just let me know in the chat, what's been that hardest part for you when it comes to marketing your practice? If you don't want to share, at least start to kind of think about what's been challenging for you. I'll wait a quick minute here and see if there's anyone that would like to share. Let's see. Stephen, differentiating myself from the guy down the road. Well, you're in the right place. We're going to focus a lot of time on answering that exact question. So that's fantastic. Anyone else would like to share? Getting enough new patients. Okay. So pretty simple answers, right? Just how do we be different? How do we get more new patients? All right. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. So where I actually want to start is with the kind of marketing as a whole, what it looks like, what is the bigger picture, and how is what we're talking about today fit into a well-developed marketing strategy. When it comes to dental marketing, at the core of it is a practice that's truly remarkable and truly rewarding for those who work there and those who own that practice. What we work with a lot of practices at Firegang, and we always ask them once results start to realize, what does this practice become to you? How would you describe this practice? And the two words we always get back are remarkable and rewarding. And of course, that means something different to every practice, to every dentist, right? But there are kind of three things that need to be achieved from a marketing point of view in order to get to a practice that's truly remarkable and rewarding for a particular dentist. Now, the first of those is a truly professional reputation. I'm going to flip my screen here. Sorry about that. So a truly professional reputation where patients in the marketplace understand who you are and what you do. The second one is reliable retention. It's great to get new patients in, but it's also amazing if we can keep them, right? So that's a huge piece of it. And then the third one is predictable revenue. We want to make sure that we know this month, what is our revenue going to look like? What does it look like next month? How is it growing? And it's done in a way that's very predictable. We have such a good marketing system in place that it's consistent revenue and it's predictable month after month. Now, to get these three things to happen, there's kind of three actions that need to be taken. The first of these is true differentiation. And the idea being that in your market, I want to help you go from being an ambiguous commodity to being the desirable first choice, where patients, when they see you online, they understand immediately why they should choose you. They understand why they should go to your practice, and you're the desirable first choice in their mind for whatever dental service they're looking for. Okay. The second piece of this is visibility, where I want to help you guys go from being obscure in your marketplace to being very well seen and noticed. But again, it's not just enough to be seen and noticed, to just show up, right? To just slam the market with tons of Google ads or send out thousands of flyers. We want to make sure that the message we create for ourselves, that's the one that's being broadcasted. That's strong differentiation. And the third step with all of this is conversion, with the idea being that we don't want to be random. We don't just want to throw cash at something and hope that it works out. We really want to be deliberate with our conversion, to say, if we're going to start a new marketing program and we're going to put money behind it, that we have a way in which we know how to test this, where we say, all right, we're going to put in $1,000 of Google ads. This is our hypothesis for how it's going to work out. And this is how we're going to track it. This is how we're going to know whether or not it worked. That's how we be deliberate in our conversion. And you really need all three of these things working together in order to have a marketing program that's going to work. And the reason why is because as we remove each of these pieces, you'll see parts of this start to fall apart. If we remove visibility from this framework, then patients don't know you exist. If they don't know you exist, they don't even have the opportunity to evaluate you versus your competition, right? Because you're not even an option to begin with. If we remove differentiation, then practices typically say they don't experience enough phone calls. And this is because patients don't have a reason for why they should call you in the first place. Maybe they see you online, maybe they see you somewhere, but they don't feel like you're worth calling. So practices often tell us they're not getting enough calls, just nobody's calling them. When you get the phone ringing, right? And the last thing, conversion. If we don't have a good conversion system in place, then you're going to experience really high marketing spend, but very few patients, because you're going to be running ads, you're going to be spending all this money and all this different, marketing going out, but it's not working, and you don't know why it's not working. So you're just blowing cash, and it's just not getting you any patients. So what we aim to do with this kind of system is look at it and say, okay, how can we get all three of these components working in unison to drive that true strong marketing and new patients for your practice? With these, there are 9 accelerators. Each to drive differentiation, to drive visibility, to drive conversion. There's 3 of what we call accelerators, which are basically like kind of the how-to, the nitty-gritty of how to make this actually work. There's way too much to cover in just a single webinar. So we're going to do a deep dive on each of these kind of one at a time throughout the rest of 2020. So I encourage you to engage in this webinar and the rest of the webinars as we kind of go through these piece by piece. So today, we're going to look at the first piece of differentiation, which is called tangible uniqueness. When we're going to craft your marketing message, the place that this starts is with true tangible uniqueness. And we're going to get into what that means today, why it's important, and how you can use it to start getting more and more new patients into your practice. So with that, the first question that I have for you, and this is where you can start using your workbooks and start filling it out. You'll see on page 2 some of this about tangible uniqueness. But before we get into that, the question I have is, how easy is it for patients to quickly understand why they should choose your practice over everyone else? And to kind of add an addendum to that, how easy is it before they ever talk to you, before they ever call your practice, before they ever come in, right? How easy is it for them to understand why they should choose you over everyone else? And think about this on a scale of 1 to 10, where a 1 might be you don't even really know what makes you unique or what stands out for you. And a 10 might be patients instantly understand why they should choose us and are doing so with consistency. If any brave souls, I would appreciate if you throw a 1 to 10 in the chat. Just would love to get a quick read on where some of you guys just feel you're at with something like this, with this question. I'll wait just a second, see if anyone would like to volunteer. Otherwise, I'll continue on. But just kind of think in your mind, where would you fall on this spectrum of 1 to 10? Somebody said about a 5. Okay, so right in the middle. That's all right. The point of this webinar is let's get that up. With the strategies that we're going to talk about today, they are the same ones that we implement every day for our practices to get them to a 10 out of 10 when looking at answering this question. So what is tangible uniqueness? This is the idea that so that patients can perceive what makes you uniquely different, right? Uniquely different in terms of what's most important to them compared to the rest of the market. You must absolutely articulate a tangible value differentiator that no one else offers. So there's a couple different things going on here, right? This is kind of like the longer definition, and I want to break it down. So you need, first off, something that makes you truly different. That's always step one, something that actually makes you different. If you say things like, hey, we're a dentist and we offer hygiene, here, that's not different, right? Everybody does that. Now, the second piece is what's most important to them. It's not just about being different, but it's also about being different in a way that somebody, actually cares about, right? And when we do this, we also have to look at the rest of the market, because if we're not paying attention to what everybody else is saying in your marketplace, then how do you know that thing that makes you any different than them? And some of the other pieces here, a tangible value differentiator that no one offers at the bottom here, again, goes to show that just we have to be different. We have to stand out. We have to know what our competitors are saying so that we can beat them in this space. So let me give you a couple examples of what this looks like. So on the left here, we have intangible uniqueness. This is what I would say a lot. I see this all over the place from what dentists are consistently saying on their websites, what they're consistently saying in their advertisements. Things like, we have a very friendly staff. We have appointments available. We're open weekdays. We offer a very welcoming environment. Okay. So if your website says any of these things, then are you really any different than anybody else? No, at least it doesn't sound like it to the patient who's viewing it, because everybody's saying these things. So what could we say instead that would be true, tangible differentiators that would make you unique? These are things like same-day emergency appointments, open Saturday and Sunday, free sedation, 0% interest financing available, $99 new patient special. So why do these things on the right here, why do these work and these things on the left don't? It's because patients can actually understand the difference between the two, right? If I see 3 ads up and they all say we have friendly staff for 3 different dental practices, then how am I supposed to evaluate that? However, let's say that I am a patient who knows I can only do Saturdays. It's just for my schedule, I just can only come in on a Saturday. If I see an ad that says that you're open on Saturday, then I might just choose you for that reason alone, right? You either are open on Saturday or you're not. There's no in between. There's no ambiguity. You are or you're not. Now, we can also look at this from a couple other angles, right? And say $99 new patient special. If one practice is offering new patient, patient exams for $500 and you're willing to do it for $99, that's a monetary incentive for a patient to go to one practice over another, right? But there's lots of more tangible differentiators in this, but it's the idea of putting it in terms that a patient understands, getting it specific. And as we go through this webinar today, I'm going to have tons of examples for you, and this is going to start to become really, really crystal clear. Here's the first example. Let's take a look at this market in Anchorage Midtown. And before I say kind of what my thoughts are on this, I encourage you to think about at least these headlines so far to see what looks kind of generic or like what everybody else would say, and which of these headlines seems like something that's a true tangible differentiator. Okay. If we look at this first one, we see what? Dental care for everyone. Okay, that's great. Literally any practice can say that. So that doesn't mean anything unique. We look at this third one, we see 5-star rated. Okay, well, I could rate my practice 5 stars with a single review, and then I'm a 5-star rated dentist. And patients know that, and so they don't really fall for it. Now, like I said with the example for the previous slide, now I've got Anchorage Midtown Dental who says open Saturday and Sunday. If I'm that patient that needs to come in on a Saturday, I'm clicking this middle ad every single time. Every time. That's a true differentiator. That makes them unique. Like I said, we're going to have more examples, but I think this is just a really easy one to grasp. That's why I wanted to use it up front. And I hope you kind of start to see how, as we create this marketing, how we create this advertising, this is the direction that we want to head in. And Anchorage Midtown Dental is a client of ours. And so this is the kind of marketing we're employing for them. I'll have a few more examples of them later. But again, it's all about creating that tangible uniqueness. And this is how we can create practices or show to patients in particular markets why that practice is the desirable first choice for them. Okay. So with that, let's look at why does differentiation matter? I've listed a few things, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into it to say, why does this matter for you? Why does this matter for your dental practice? And how much of an impact is it going to have? So Jack Trout, very, very famous, very, very smart guy in advertising and marketing. He wrote a book called Differentiate or Die. And I just want to read this quote that I think is pretty spectacular. He said, "It's been estimated that there are 1 million SKUs, which are standard stocking units out there in America, right? Every single product has its own SKU." And he said, the average supermarket has 40,000 of them. But the average family in America gets 80 to 85% of their needs from just 150 SKUs. Okay? That means there's a good chance that they'll ignore almost all the items, 39,850 items in that store. Okay. So how do we become those items? If I'm, going to go to a supermarket, how do we become that item that the average American family wants to buy? We have to really differentiate ourselves or we're going to die out. Right. And it's just a real interesting idea, because if you're not different, you're going to look like everyone else. And there's a lot of else out there. Right. And it gets just kind of washed away in the pool of looking like everyone else. Now, well, all we know in dentistry, the competition is getting more and more fierce, whether it's private practices or the rise of corporate dentistry. I mean, we see article after article after article from various organizations that are showing that DSOs are growing. They're here to stay. We see that DSOs are growing at a rate of 13 to 14% per year. Private practices are shrinking by 7% per year. And it's like, what can the private practice do about it? Differentiate. That's really the key here. This is an interesting quote from Dr. Mark Cooper, who said, "If the future is DSOs, and it's inevitable that it is, then it's best to get on this train because it's leaving the station. The DSO tracks are laid for dominating the industry. They've got the money, the people, the processes, the infrastructures, the matrices, and the marketing. DSOs have the wind at their backs and the sun on their face, while most dentists are fighting a strong, cold headwind." So instead of fighting this headwind and just looking at this and saying, the DSOs are stealing all our patients, there's ways that every private practice can beat them. And there's hundreds, thousands of private practices that are still winning in these markets that are highly competitive by having the right type of marketing. But the key is to not play the same game that these corporate dentists are playing, right? They're going to always beat you on price. Okay. So if you don't look like you're any different than they are, then the patient sees no reason for why they should pay more for the same service. And that's what they're going to see in their own head. So as we kind of go through the rest of this webinar, I'm going to give you lots of strategies and tactics for how we can start to beat that. But it doesn't even necessarily just apply to corporate dentistry. This applies to any highly competitive area with lots of private practices as well. So a kind of a formula to go about this. If the only way to survive in your market is to differentiate, then here's how we're going to do it. So the first step is to differentiate in context. We need to understand, what do patients want, right? Because if we are very, very different than everybody else, but it's not in a way that any patient cares about, then that's not really something we want to market, right? Like, let's say you, because I actually have a dentist in my town that this is true of. He played in the NBA for a long time, and then he became a dentist afterward. That's quite different. I don't think there's anybody else in our larger area within like 50 miles, probably larger than that played in the NBA and is also a dentist. But guess what? Patients don't choose him because he played in the NBA. So we need to put in differentiators that patients actually care about, right? It seems kind of simple, but it's something that we need to keep in mind. The second step here is the differentiating idea. This is your tangible uniqueness, right? Saying, hey, we're going to be open on Saturday. We're going to offer financing options. We're going to be the low price competitor, or whatever else it is. And I'll have more examples of these later. But this is what your tangible uniqueness is that separates you from everybody else in your marketplace. The third step here is what you offer, which is basically to say, we can't be making claims about what makes us different if we're not actually different in that way. So we don't want to lie. We have to have the credentials, right? Credentials to back up what we're saying here. If we're going to say that we were voted best dentist in the area, you better have been voted best dentist in the area. Don't just put that on your website. I can't condone that. But the fourth one here is communicate. I think this is the most missed piece out of this entire webinar, I would say. There are countless dentists that I speak with every single day. I spoke with one this morning that did this. I spoke with one yesterday that did this. They have all these great, amazing differentiators, all these things that make them tangibly unique that could really beat the competition, but they don't talk about it. It's not in their ads, it's not on their website. Their staff doesn't communicate it, even when asked about it, because that message is not coming through. So we need to communicate. Find the differentiator, find the message, and then let's actually get it up. Okay. So, and looking at this differentiating framework, this will be on page 2 of your workbook. So you can go ahead and kind of fill this in as we're talking about it. And I'd encourage you to do so you kind of have something in there that's maybe a little more concrete as we're thinking through this. But consider if you're running any ads and you kind of know what they say, if you saw a report on them or you're running them yourself, think about what was said in those ads. If you're on your computer, which you should be on this webinar, but maybe you pull up your website real quick and think, what am I saying in my marketing? What am I saying on my website right now at this moment? What are you currently saying in your marketing to try to show that your practice is different? Look at just the main banner on your homepage. What is it saying there? And write this down, because we want to start to see, what are we going to change? What are the specific actions you're going to take with your marketing that it's going to make a huge impact? If anybody would appreciate I'd always appreciate encourage or engagement within this webinar. For anyone that's kind of looking at their website right now or just thinking about their ads, what have you been currently saying in your marketing? Maybe some of what you've said is great. Maybe it's not so great. I'd appreciate if you put it in the chat. I would just love to get a little feel for what some people are thinking right now. I'll give it just a quick second here. See if anyone enters in the chat, and then I'll keep on moving. And like I said, too, with the chat, if you guys have any questions on any of this stuff, feel free to pop that in there, and I'll go ahead and get any of your questions answered. All right, looks like, okay, that's about right. Somebody just said, hey, we're accepting new patients right now. So yeah, that's a pretty common one. It's just something easy that you can put up there, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. All right, so we had one brave soul. Thank you, appreciate it. We'll go ahead and continue on. So, step 2, identify and target your ideal patient. In order to craft a strong message that's going to resonate appropriately, we need to know who that message is for. So we're going to look at, how do we identify and target our ideal patient? On page 2, there's an opportunity there for you to say, describe your ideal patient in a sentence. Now, this is really, really hard to do, right? But if it's something that you were able to achieve, to describe your ideal patient in a sentence, then it's something that would really help you going forward in your marketing, knowing exactly, crystal clear in your mind, who that person is and how you're going to reach that person, okay? So think about this. How could we describe your ideal patient in one sentence? What we want to look at, though, from a broader perspective to kind of drill down on that is the demographics of that person. What are their pain and frustrations? What are their fears and implications? What are their goals and their desires? Okay, so let's look at a couple examples for what these patients may look like. We've got demographics starting off. Maybe this is a female, a mom who needs dental care for her family, married with 2 to 3 kids, right? 65K annual household income. They're family oriented. Maybe they're living in the suburbs. They want this to be easy. They want to get their dentistry done for them and their family, and they don't want it to be this big, challenging debacle. Pain and frustrations, getting themselves or their kids to the dentist is inconvenient. They don't know who to trust, right? Don't know who is the best option out there for them. Maybe they're in some immediate pain right now and they need to find an emergency dentist, or they're worried that the situation will get worse if they don't deal with it now. Or it's probably a combination of these things. When we're looking at fears and implications, oftentimes what we're seeing are things like they're they're afraid of being ripped off or overcharged, paying too much for something they could have gotten somewhere else. That's a real fear that patients have. They're worried about their teeth getting messed up by going to the wrong doctor. They're worried about it hurting them, or that there's a bill that's higher than they can afford. These are all things that we see time and time again. Goals and desires want to get their teeth fixed. They want to have this issue behind them, just dealt with and moving on. They want to have good teeth. They want to look great, take care of their family if they're getting dental care for their kids, right? Improve confidence, smile in pictures again, eat normally, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of things here that we can look at when building out this kind of ideal patient, this avatar of who that person is. And on page 3 of your workbook, I would encourage you to look through this and start to kind of build out who that ideal patient is for you, and really write these in and say, okay, my demographic in my particular area is, that average household income of 65K. For me, in my practice, maybe I really want families. Or maybe in my practice, I don't want families. I'm really looking for young adults, right? So start to piece this together so that you have something concrete that you can look at. Maybe fears and implications are similar, and goals and desires are similar to kind of some of the examples that we walked through here. But really think about what you've heard from your patients. Maybe cost is always something that just, keeps coming up for you. And so we can look at what are ways we can combat that? Could we start some in-house financing options? What are some ways that we can get through these fears and make it easier for someone to book treatment with us, or at least just get them in the door, right? To get that initial call. A lot of times that's where the struggle is. So that's on page 3. Feel free to, and I'd really encourage you to fill that out. Maybe not immediately right now, but definitely fill that out as part of this process. So after you get your ideal patient nailed down and you know exactly who that is and what they look like, we want to start choosing your tangible differentiators. And that's why I kind of alluded to this by saying, okay, if you figure out these are the common objections I hear, the common fears that this person says, then we can start building out these tangible differentiators to combat that. So what we're seeing with any kind of collection of pains, fears, and needs, any goals, anything that ultimately comes out of your ideal patient avatar, all of that's going to boil down to 3 major categories. 3 categories for tangible uniqueness that we can start to pull ideas from. And this is going to be first money. The second is going to be convenience. And the third, and the third is going to be time. So we want to have those real, if we scroll back up here, we want to have these more nitty gritty ideas written down so we know exactly who we're speaking to. But we can, like I said, we can categorize our unique differentiators. And later, as we get into special offers, we can start to piece that together based on these 3 categories. So when you're looking at something like money, what we're looking at are how can I save this patient money? What can I do to, make this easy for them to afford the treatment that I've got in this practice, right? And there's lots of different ways we can approach that, but this might be things like a new patient special, right? Dollars off treatment, stuff like that, or to say, it's $79 for a new patient. Or we can have things like financing options to say, it's 0% for the first year for financing for something more expensive like dental implants, right? But we get real specific about what that looks like. However, it doesn't have to be just money-based. There's a lot of great differentiators that come from a convenience point of view. Things like open 7 days a week, right? Or maybe it doesn't even have to be open 7 days a week, but you just offer evening appointments. Or maybe you offer evening appointments just, once a week, like every Wednesday you are open later, right? And that makes it more convenient for people to come in. The third one here, the third category is time. How can we save our patients time? Well, we can offer same day, sorry about my handwriting, but same day appointments for emergencies, right? We can get a lot of great patients that way, which is also an excellent way to get people in when they can't go somewhere else. And then if you do such a good job, they might stay, right? And then you have very good retention. We could offer things like 1 to 2 day implants, right? And speed up that procedure. But I think one hidden one that's kind of in this time arena is actually having a rock star front staff, right? If what I see with some practices when I do, in the past I've done like secret shopping to try to understand how well a particular practice has performed in terms of what their staff is saying on the phones. And, a common thing is having a patient ask a question and the staff doesn't know how to answer it. So I have to put that person on hold, go ask the question, come back, answer the question. And then maybe there's a follow-up question with that patient. They have to put that patient back on hold, go ask someone and come back, and so on and so forth. Well, that doesn't set a very good experience up front, right? And I see this actually happen quite often. So if you don't know how your staff is handling calls at the front desk, that would be something that you'd want to start to look at. There's lots of great ways to track calls. We're not going to talk a lot about that today, but if you can save patients time on the phone, that is a huge differentiator as well. So I encourage you to think about that as well. So the question becomes then, what can you offer that your ideal patient will resonate with? Based on these three categories, what can you start to offer? Or if you don't offer anything right now, how can you start, right? Because we got to do something if we're not getting any patients in. A good way to look at this too is we can take any services or ideas that you have and start to get more and more specific with it. The more specific that you can get with a unique differentiator, the more effective it's going to be on your website and all your messaging and all your ads, wherever you place that, however you communicate that. So if you have kind of a basic service, you can look at, well, how can we offer that service in a way that might make us more unique? We can look at these things like say, all right, we want to be more flexible in our hours, right? Well, okay, let's say we're going to do early morning appointments, okay? Early appointments, or we're going to do late appointments, or we're going to do weekend, appointments. We're going to have those flexible hours. The second category, again, might be something like financing options, and you start there. But again, getting as really, really specific as you possibly can with this. Saying, it's not just financing options, but it's 0% interest, or maybe you just decide we're going to do some work with some third-party groups, and we're going to make that work for us and for our patients. Just figuring out how can we make this more affordable for them. Or lastly, you may have specific services that you offer now that maybe you can get more training for, or bring in a specialist or something that makes these procedures even more of a differentiator in your particular market. Let's say it's like, root canals, or let's say it's something like dental implants. Like, how can we take these services that we offer and make them more unique? Like a one visit, if I can spell correctly here, like a one visit root canal, or maybe like a same day implant where they can leave with something, and that makes you different because maybe nobody else or very few other people in your market are offering those kinds of services. So again, how can we get more specific with this? On page 5 of the workbook, this exact exercise is in there. I would definitely encourage you to look at this and say, what can we do at our practice to become more unique, right? And maybe you're looking at this and going, I do that, I do that, I do that, I do that, I do that. So then the question becomes, are you marketing it appropriately, right? Are you actually communicating that? As we take that kind of information, the kind of next piece I want to dive into is crafting special offers. So once you've got a good handle on what makes you unique, what can you do differently than everybody else? What are you willing to do? What services do you have available? We can start taking that information and really crafting special offers around it. I'd love to get any engagement from you guys on what are some issues you've had running special offers. I get a lot of thoughts around special offers that are very different from a lot of dentists. So if any of you guys have any thoughts on running special offers, if you've had any issues with it, I'd love to know in the comments, and I can just address those directly with some of the insights that we've seen here at Firegang. If you have any questions around that or thoughts on that. So if you have anything, I would say enter it in the chat box if you've had any issues running special offers. If you don't want to put it in there, then at least just kind of think about it, and hopefully I'll address some of these issues with some ways that we can alleviate those issues. Looks like I didn't get any takers on this one. That's all right, guys. Hope you're still with me. We're getting towards the end here. Let's keep moving though. So, what are some common problems with special offers? I'm sure some of these will ring true for you guys. Things such as dentists feel like they're over discounting their services. That's probably the one I hear the most, right? Feeling like you're just giving everything away. The second one here, new patients come in to redeem one special offer and never come back. So you're a little bit hesitant to use them because it doesn't feel like they're good patients anyway. Potential new patients confused by a complicated special offer, or this is actually what we see more often than what dentists see, is having a front office staff that doesn't know how to answer questions about the special offer. Where maybe you have a marketing company that ran some special offer but didn't communicate that correctly with your staff. And so the staff isn't really aware that that's even something that's being run, and that creates a lot of confusion, right? I've seen this happen many, many times, and it's something that needs to get fixed. I did get a question in here. I'll answer that in just a second here. And, potential new patient loses trust in the practice, thinking, are they trying to trick me, or why doesn't the staff, know what's going on in this particular case? So the question before I move on here is, how is quality shown as a differentiator? So that is a interesting question that has it's not an exact answer, but this is what I would typically say when it comes to quality. So you can't just say your quality, right? You can't just come out and say, okay, I'm the best dentist, because just saying it doesn't mean anything, right? But quality can be a great differentiator. There's ways to approach that. So the one of the best ways to showcase quality is to have great online reviews, right? If in your market, and I was going to get to some of this later, but I'll just dive into it now to answer your question. So if in your market there are 20 different practices and you've got 300 5-star Google reviews, and you've got an average rating of 4.9, and the next highest guy has 100 reviews and his average rating is 4.8, you will get the assumption that you've got the highest quality practice around. And that's just how it is today. People view those reviews as quality. So if you want quality, you say reviews are not trustworthy, and you can think that that's the case, but what we see and what the data shows is that people take reviews and they use them and they trust them, and they're going to do it all the time. There are people that don't trust reviews, but the vast majority, like over 90%, well over 90%, do trust those reviews. So if you're having issues with the amount, with bad reviews or people leaving bad reviews, really all the solution is to get more good ones. You say companies will make reviews up for you. That can happen. But again, at the end of the day, if you've got patients coming in and they're happy, get them to leave reviews for you. It will work. And it's pretty simple and pretty straightforward to do it. If you can get even just like 10 reviews a month on Google from happy patients, at the end of the year, you'll have 120 more Google reviews. That's powerful. That's very, very powerful. Even if you get your competitors to leave some bad reviews for you, it's not going to matter. You're going to have so many good ones to outweigh that. Also, the way that you respond to those reviews is impactful, and patients will read that as well and take that into account. So that's really the best way to approach quality. There's some other good ways you can do it through the use of, actually, you know what? There is one other way, but I'm going to get to that just a little bit later in this presentation. So hold tight with that. But reviews, they make a huge difference. Don't underestimate the power of Google reviews. And it's kind of one of those things where you got to get on the boat with it. you've got to have strong reviews. And that's one of the biggest things that we focus on at Firegang for all of our clients. And we see that those with great reviews always perform better than those without. All right, so to continue on here, and we'll get to the second piece of that quality question. When we're looking at special offers, on page 6 and 7, there it goes through how to do this, but there's a whole piece that you want to do on competitive analysis, right? The idea being that if we don't do any competitive analysis, then a special offer might not be very powerful because somebody else in your market might have a special offer that's basically just a little bit better than yours, right? So you have to know what are other people saying in your market that about themselves. So that way you can carve out something new and something competitive and something unique, right? So on pages 6 and 7 in the workbook, this goes through how to do a competitive analysis on your competitors to see what are they saying in your marketplace. It takes minutes and it's extremely powerful and will give you a ton of insight into what you need to do and what you should say with your special offers. Now, some of the questions you can start thinking of are, what special offers are my competitors marketing, right? So we're going to avoid or beat similar offers and services as everybody else. Think about what prices are competitors using to market, right? Because you can take this one of two ways. The first is say we're going to offer a lower rate. Not everybody wants to do that, and that's totally fine. But for some, that makes a ton of sense, right? If the guy is saying he does a $100 new patient special, some doctors say, well, why don't we just do a $29 new patient special, right? Because we did the competitive research, we know. For some, doing a race to the bottom is not where they want to compete, and that's fine. There's lots of other ways to approach it. I'll show you the next piece and how we can do that in a second here. So we can also ask the question of, do you believe that the offers for your competitors, that what your competitors are marketing, speak to your ideal patient? So consider what your competitors are doing right to market to your ideal patient. And then can you make it better? Can you do the same thing, but just a little bit better? Like instead of a $99 new patient exam, can we offer a $99 new patient exam, but also throw in some free whitening? We've just one-upped that special offer and gotten more people to click on us versus them. But we also want to consider our practice goals, of course, right? Other services that you want to grow at your practice. If you want, more implant cases, then let's create some special offers around implants, of course. Or if there's a new group of patients you want to market to, like more young adults, let's create some specials that are going to appeal to them or seniors and so on and so forth. Let's look at a couple examples. So these are, and there's some Firegang clients in here in some of these examples, but here's some examples of like a new patient special, right? So you see just like, hey, this is a dentist with a $139 new patient special or an $80 new patient special, right? $99 dental exam and cleaning. So all of these practices are in different markets. However, if they were in the same market, right, this is where competitive research is super powerful. Because if these two practices happen to be in the same market, then what you'd see is this one. I mean, it's obvious, right? This one's going to get more traffic, assuming everything else is the same. The only way that this bottom ad is going to work better is if this guy on top here has like the worst website of all time, or if this person also scrolls down and finds that this guy's got like 500 Google reviews that are super powerful, then they're thinking, okay, well, maybe I'd pay more because I'm going to get better quality, right? We kind of come back to that quality idea. However, the alternative way to approach this is to say, okay, my competitor is offering, let's use the middle one as an example. My competitor is offering an $80 new patient exam. I don't want to compete on that. I think that my products or my services and my time is more valuable than that. So what you can do instead is just market in a completely different way, right? We can start saying, hey, we're open on Saturday. We can offer dentures in today. We can get you in today for a same day appointment, and so on and so forth. You could also market that you've got great reviews. There's all sorts of ways that we can do this, but reviews are powerful and they matter. So think about what is your unique differentiator, and then we can build a special offer around it. Now, last step, like I said before, something that is a huge missed opportunity for a ton of practices that I talk to, a ton of doctors that I talk to, is just not even using those differentiators through their marketing. They create them, they figure out what they are. Maybe they do it intentionally, maybe unintentionally, and then they don't communicate them. It just never comes out, doesn't get to the Google ads, doesn't get to the website. So what we want to see is that from ad to website to phones, that message, that special offer gets all the way through that. Here's just a real simple example from one of our clients. You see $99 new patient special for the first visit. You hit the website. It's right there. It's one of the first things you see. And then the staff is in tune with it. And so they understand, okay, we're getting a call about this special. Let's reiterate that. Let's talk to them about what that includes. It's very cohesive all the way through, and it creates an excellent experience for that patient. And they don't feel like they got lost in this process anywhere. It's very consistent, but it's also messaged appropriately. Again, let's go back to our example with Anchorage Midtown Dental. We see, the ad for open Saturdays and Sundays. As you go to their website, what you'll notice is right what you're presented with, this kind of first bar here. You'll see that it says open 7 days a week. However, on top of that, we also have other ads running to talk about all their other differentiators. And those are also included in this bar. So you see 1 or 2 day dental implants, in-house dentures, same-day emergency appointments, you have things like IV sedation, so on and so forth that are being marketed in this way, which is just a great way to keep consistency between the ads and the website, but also just we're promoting what makes this practice different. And again, in a way that patients can understand. We're not just saying that we're great. The other way that we can also work with improving and showcasing quality is through including Google reviews directly on our website. It's actually kind of cut off here, which I should have got a better screenshot of it. I apologize for that. But it's a little cut off here, but what you'd see underneath here is also the patient's face, an image of them, the Google symbol. And so it's really a Google review that's been pulled in from Google. So it has that credibility and the review rotates. And that's what's going to showcase quality. Also on the top of this website here, you see things like certificates of excellence and stuff like that. If you have like an award or were voted best dentist, those are the things that you want to push to the very top of your website. That showcases quality. You don't, the people who have the highest quality don't need to just say they have high quality. They can show their accolades, they can show their reviews, and that says everything that needs to be said there. It's quite powerful. All right. So takeaways. I hope you guys learned something today. And I'd ask you, what did you learn? What did you notice? Anything you'd like to share? If there's any questions, this would be definitely a good time to ask them. Otherwise, just think about what are 3 action items? What are 3 things that you want to do starting today or starting tomorrow to differentiate your practice within your marketing based on what you've learned today? I'd really encourage some of you guys to enter into the chat box at least one thing that you want to do. Make it official, right? Take some action today that pushes you forward to take action tomorrow. Write down one thing, put it in the chat box to say, this is what I'm going to do to better differentiate my practice and my marketplace starting tomorrow. Let's see. I'd love to see a couple of you guys just write something in there. I'll see it in the chat box. I'm looking at it right now. All right. We got review my website based on what I've learned today. Okay, that's good. Appreciate that. That's always the first step, right? Review what you've got. And then you can take some action on that. If you're seeing a lot of that kind of more generic stuff, I would encourage you to take it down. Let's see. Anyone else want to share one thing that you're going to do? All right. We only got one taker. Well, I hope the rest of you are writing this down. So what we've covered today, quite a few things. We've looked at what new patients actually look for in a new dentist. We've looked at the difference between intangible and tangible uniqueness. We've looked at identifying your ideal patient and how to speak directly to your ideal patient's needs and concerns through this kind of differentiation. Choosing your tangible differentiators, completing competitive analysis on special offers and how to craft those offers that will stand out, and how you can communicate and use those differentiators throughout your entire marketing. So this was the first accelerator like I talked about before, okay? It's just this first piece, tangible uniqueness, based on how we can create differentiation. There's a lot more that will come as part of this. We're going to have many, many more webinars throughout the rest of 2020 to address the rest of this model here. We're going to take a look at other pieces of differentiation. We're going to look at how to drive visibility and what to do with things like Google Ads. We'll look at how to set up tracking systems and reporting as in all part of this model throughout the rest of the year. So kind of more, the more webinars you attend, the more pieces of this you'll have to really either, one, do the marketing yourself, or two, if you're going to partner with a marketing company, you'll know what you're talking about as you go through that process with them. If any of you guys would like more help with this, or something that's more specific where I can kind of dig in and look at a lot of these differentiators and build that out for you, if you want any help with that, you can go to firegang.com/assessment, or feel free to type just "let's talk" in the chat box. At this link, you'll get you'll see a calendar there, and you can go ahead and book a time directly on my calendar. So you actually speak directly with me, and we'll go through a process where I'll ask you some basic questions about you in the practice to get a better understanding of just what's going on, what you're looking to achieve. We'll do a deep dive into your website and your differentiators and see where could these improvements be made. And then we'll give you all that information. If you'd like us to, or if you're interested in also partnering with Firegang in some capacity, if that's something that you're thinking, you'd like our help to actually get this marketing done for you, we do offer digital marketing as a service. If that's something you would like to know more about, or learn more about our services or how we can do this for you, go ahead and book an assessment at firegang.com/assessment, or type let's talk in the chat box. That would be the best way to get in touch with me to talk more about that. Again, as a thank you for being on tonight, these rewards will be in your inbox. So we're going to give you the pay-per-click ads for Dentist Guide, as well as the website conversion checklist. The idea behind this is that we went through today about messaging and differentiation and all of that, but these two guides will kind of fill in the pieces there. So you can, once you've identified what you should be saying, this will fill in like, how can we get that up on Google Ads? How can we address that on our website with some great resources there. But other than that, we're kind of at the end of the webinar. So does anybody have any questions? I'd like to just open it up to Q&A. I've answered a couple questions so far, but if there's anything about any of the material that we've covered today, anything about anything we haven't covered today, I'm happy to answer any questions about marketing. Feel free to just open up that Q&A box or the chat box. Happy to answer questions. I'll give it a minute to see if anybody's got any questions before we wrap up for the evening. John, you'd like to chat? Okay, sounds good. I've got your email, so I will reach out to you and we can get something set up. Anybody else have any questions or want to chat before we wrap up here? Okay, well, I guess that's going to do it then. It sounds like I did such a good job on the webinar tonight oh wait, hang on I did such a good job on the webinar tonight that I was able to answer all your questions. There's just no ambiguity left. Sounds good. All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks everybody. We'll have many more webinars, so have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see you in the future.